I remember you telling a story, Pastor Jason telling a story about one time. Literally, it was like, which direction do I go to the church one time? And I was like, come on, Jay. Like, come on. But honestly, I believe even the most granular decisions of our day, you can go to your Heavenly Father. Not only can you, but He's waiting for you to come to Him. He's waiting to engage with you. He's waiting to interact with you. He wants to speak into the small things and the large things in your life. And if you constantly put yourself in a situation where I'm gonna handle it, I'm gonna take care of it, I'm gonna make sure that I can do it all on my own, typically a reactive decision isn't gonna always work out in your favor. And when it ends up impacting you negatively, what I've found is that negative reactive decisions will snowball in my life, and they tend to have this magnified response over me. And that's where none of us want to end up in that place. And so for those of us that we come across a problem, we come across something an issue in our life, I believe your Heavenly Father is saying, come to me with what you got going on right now. Come to me in the middle of your to-do list. Come to me in the middle of your problem, because He's waiting to speak to you. And I believe if we're gonna live by God's design, that means by first seeking Him and seeking His face and seeking His kingdom and seeking His righteousness, and all being added to us will be He will give you what you need for that moment and that decision. He will give you wisdom on how to take that step forward. He will give you wisdom around that circumstance. Paul, he goes on, he says, be very careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of every opportunity, because the days are evil. And I love this, because just like Jesus, Paul begins to shift the conversation towards time. He says the days are evil. I don't believe Paul is exaggerating here. I don't believe he's trying to use a straw man argument. I believe the days are evil. And we see evil all around us, but it's actually a lot more practical than that. This word translates as full of labors, hardships, and annoyances. Man, I'm grateful that some biblical scholar determined that this means annoyances. Because when the guy cuts me off, that's not necessarily a hardship, but I am annoyed, right? Like when I step on a Lego, I'm not trying to martyr myself here, but that's an annoyance that I don't want to deal with. The days are evil, y'all. Whoever invented that Lego is going to have to pay. Answer to Jesus for that decision. Full of labors, hardships, and annoyances. Every single one of us face those every single day. He says, your life is full of these things. And so the beginning of this phrase, he says, so make the most of every opportunity. One of the first English translations, the King James translation, translates this as redeeming the time. We know what it means to redeem a coupon. We know what it means to redeem a gift card, right? You're redeeming something of value for something in return. So when we talk about redeeming time, that means you're gonna get value out of your time. You're gonna get value out of the time that you've been given. The opposite of that would be wasting your time, right? And why do we value our time? Because time is a limited asset. We cannot add more hours to our day. You cannot have more time, but you can be more effective with the time that you have. I feel like this is maybe one of the number one lessons that I find myself teaching younger leaders. Because life does not slow down. At least I'm mid-30s, 2 kids. Maybe I will one day get to an age in my life. Some of you might be at a place where you feel like, okay, I've worked, I'm retired, whatever, and maybe things are starting to slow down. But then you get grandkids, so I'm not actually sure if things ever actually do slow down, right? And so life does not tend to slow down. So when I interact with younger leaders, I'm like, listen, you feel like you're stressed now. You feel like you got a lot on your plate now. Wait till you gotta sign your kids up for kids camp. Wait till you gotta figure out their schedules. Wait till you gotta inject something like that into the mix. I remember when I was a younger pastor, I would prep for a sermon, just something super basic. And I would spend hours on this, like close to 30 hours a week sometimes, just prepping my sermon. And really because I could, that was my job. And I spent so much time pouring into it. Now, I probably spend about 10 hours to prep an individual sermon. And it's not because I care about that sermon less. It's not because I don't have enough faith for the sermon. It's not even because I'm better at it per se, though I've learned better practices. But honestly, it's because I don't have the time. Like, I do not have the time to put more effort into a Sunday sermon. Why? Because kids, y'all, it happens and it takes over your life. This morning, I'm in my basement preaching this sermon to a mirror, and Harrison comes down and says, "Do you want to play Go Fish?" And I said yes at 7 a.m. I'm in the middle of practicing this sermon. This is the only thing I gotta do. I gotta preach this sermon 3 times today. I'm ready to get ready. And I'm like, all right, do you have any threes? And we finish a whole game of Go Fish, and I'm like, okay, I gotta work now. I gotta work now, buddy. God cannot add more hours to your day, but I do believe he can make you more effective with the hours he's given you. I truly believe that God can give me supernatural effectiveness with the time that he's already given me. And when I begin to understand that about how I treat my hours of my day, man, I believe I have a multiplied positive impact on the things I choose to do. And so for a lot of us, in order to make the most of every opportunity, I think we have to understand the value of time, that we can't have more at a time, but we can be more productive with the time that we have.